So, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Tech Bubble. Today we have a special guest. He goes by the name Denises, who's currently working as a Cloud Engineer at RBC.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so we would like to first thank Denise for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come onto our show. Yeah, thank you again, Denise. We really appreciate this. So yeah, let's segue into Denise. I guess let's get started by just telling us a bit more about yourself, your background, some of what you do, and yeah, just more about yourself as a whole.
Sure, sounds good. So I'm currently a cloud engineer, as you mentioned, at RBC. I've been there for just over a year after graduating. I'm currently working on different cloud technologies. So within my team, I specialize working on the Azure platform and really focus on the data side of things. So data engineering, data science, really helping different teams within the bank best utilize cloud services in the data space. So I got this job after completing my undergrad at U of T, where I studied computer science. And while I was there, I took a number of different courses in system design, machine learning, and such. And while I was in school, I also did a number of internships. So I worked at RBC for a couple internships. I worked at Geotab, and I worked at some small businesses in the Halton region. So I've done a little bit of everything in tech, front end, back end, data science, and I'm happy to share my experiences here today. I also ran an organization in university called Tech Under 20, where I now serve as an advisor. So Tech Under 20's goal is to help students figure out what they want to do with their careers, become successful at it, and then get connected to opportunities. So we've been operating for 5 years, and we've helped over 1,000 students so far. So that's a little bit about me.
For sure. That's you have a very nice resume there. So let's dive into a little bit about like University of Toronto. What was it like studying computer science there?
So U of T was pretty good. I think that U of T's biggest strength is its size and its faculty. So there's some really awesome professors there. There's very few places in the world where you can go to some office hours and then have one of the TAs tell you that your professor invented this technique and it's world renowned. So it's pretty interesting being in that kind of environment. One of the challenges, though, is that you don't know all the opportunities that U of T offers until a little bit later, and by that point, it's a little too late to leverage all of them. But there's a lot of great props, both on the teaching side and on the research side. So U of T right now is attracting a lot of top talent for its master's and PhD programs in machine learning, arguably a top 3 program at this point. So a lot of cool there. But yeah, it's a big school. I think there's 48,000 undergrads there within the system. So that's like a small Canadian town, closer to a medium Canadian town, actually. So
Sure.
quite some size there. So it's an interesting school. I think one of the challenges in computer science, I guess there's 2 challenges. One is that the classes are quite large. So the computer science program has almost 600 people now per year. So that's 2,500 people just in computer science. So it's sometimes difficult to see the same people over and over again because there are lots of classes. You can take courses in the spring, fall, or summer. So sometimes hard to reconnect with those people. And the second thing is that because of the, I guess, worldly reputation and some of the focus on research, there's less of an emphasis placed on helping students find summer work. It's more of a focus on helping them find a professional experience here, usually between the 2nd and 3rd year.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard a lot of like good things about U of T from a lot of my friends who currently go there. At least the consensus is that it can be challenging, but it's also rewarding, and it seems that sort of touches on a little bit of what you also mentioned with how good the faculty can be, and also some of the support there when it comes to academic work. So that's awesome. Yeah, so I guess just going into one of our next questions, can you walk us through some of the internships that you had and the main routes that you used to get those internships, as well as some of the highlights of the internships that you had?
For sure. So the first 2 internships I had were focused on mobile development. So they're a couple of years after I started programming, and I guess my bigger one at the end of grade 12, I got through Tech Under 20. So there's an event called Pitch Yourself, and my high school teacher recommended that I attend it. So day one was learning how to get an interview and pitch yourself to different employers. There's some mock pitches and such, and a lot of great speakers that came out. And then the second day was that we got to pitch to mentors and companies about the different opportunities they had. So I ended up meeting Robin and Scott from Virtual Logistics, and I worked as an iOS developer there over the course of the summer and built out their first version of their iOS app. So the app was designed for sort of e-commerce, supply chain management kind of use cases. So that was pretty interesting. The following year, I worked at RBC. So I got a referral in, which I was very lucky to get. So I worked there and helped modernize a mobile application. So it was a Java backend, and I helped develop sort of a key integration into the cloud environment they're building into. So I got some exposure into cloud technologies then, and what turned out to be a 3-month project was originally scoped to be a 1-week project. So I ended up writing a whole bunch of documentation because that integration was something that bank hadn't done at the time, and it needed a little bit more details to fully walk somebody end to end. So that was first year. Second year, I then worked at Geotab. So Geotab is, I think, the world's largest telematics company right now. And they have over 2 million cars and trucks that are using their devices. What these devices do is that they basically, these devices basically help people track their vehicles. So you put them in and it scans the engine and the different metrics from a car, so fuel consumption, location and such, and it helps large companies like UPS and Pepsi optimize some of their delivery routes and such. So there's a lot of cool tech happening there, and I mainly worked on the DevOps and mobile development side. For my last internship, I went back to RBC to work as part of the Amplify program. And as part of Amplify, I built a tool with a team. So there's a team of 4 of us that analyze different investment documents. And these documents are typically really boring to read. So we built this machine learning tool that analyzed the different text within it and then provided some insights so that wealth advisors knew where in the document to look and what interesting information to find rather than sort of blindly reading them. So that kind of wrapped up my internships, and then I signed with RBC at the end of my third to come back full time after school.
That's pretty cool. So like I've noticed that, like you said, you got like a lot of referrals. Like, you have like any advice like how you go about getting these referrals? Because it's definitely like one of a harder tasks to do rather than going like applying online, which is like very simple.
Yeah, for sure. So I think most companies, you still apply online when you get a referral, but I think one of the keys is making sure that you know people in the industry. So within the industry, it's great to meet people from when they come to your university. So if they have a campus tour, which I guess is going to be virtual campus tours for the next little bit, it's great to speak to the engineers, the recruiters there, as well as at any hackathons you attend. Any other networking events are great as well, getting to know people. Obviously, getting a referral from somebody that you know from 10 meetings is much better than 1 meeting, right? Because they can vouch on the different skills and question the capabilities you have. So just getting out there is really important. Obviously, being part of different groups is important. Like, a lot of students who have been part of Tech Under 20 and have done some great work have gotten some good referrals in. So I got a referral into RBC, but then I also got a referral into Geotab as well. So it's important to be part of a community. I think a community is designed to help vouch for people, and when that trust exists between a company and a community that really great students or people in general can be referred in, then that's an efficient system that exists.
For sure. Yeah, that's actually fascinating, because I've, like, for all my past internships, I've actually just like gone through like the Waterloo co-op program. So like not really referrals, and it ends up being very difficult to get like those like higher tier jobs because there's so much competition there. But like referrals, I feel like will really, like, you know, help you out and be on the top of the pile of the resumes when someone is like taking a look at it though. So yeah, so that's good to know. In terms of Tech Under 20, like you wanna like talk a little bit about that, like how you got involved into it, like what it's specifically doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think with Tech Under 20, I joined after I got that summer internship at Virtual Logistics, and from that point onward, it was about growing the community. So the first year was a little slower. So we built a website, sort of established our social media presence more, held the same event again. And after that, it sort of started focusing more on growth. So at that point, we introduced a couple of new initiatives. So we introduced the Tech Under 20 Cup. We introduced the chapter program where we had school representatives from 3 different schools talk about the different things happening in the Halton community. So we really wanted to share that with students. We grew our team. So the first 2 years we were 4 people, and we went up to 8. So we really focused on growing and finding new partners. That year in 2017, we presented at Tech TO, which is a large tech community in Toronto. So really focusing on building those partnerships and helping students figure things out. In the following years, we continued that growth. So we introduced a ethics case study called Policy and Technology. We introduced a conference. We extended our chapter program. So Tech Under 20 is now found in a number of different schools in Halton and a couple in Mississauga and Toronto as well. So there's been a focus on growth, but also solidifying the experience for students. So we've had a number of students go through the program, and especially with the cup, our focus has been how do you make an impact in your community? So for the cup, we've funded a number of student projects to make sure that they can continue and be successful. We've had a project with Food for Life where a group of students is building an education platform within that charity. There's also been work done with Oakville Public Library to help digitize their summer reading program. So a lot of cool stuff there. And this year, our theme for the cup, which is entrepreneurship competition, focused on climate change. So focusing on the environment was important. And obviously with the COVID situation, teams have had to adapt to how to implement their solutions, but we're looking forward to the things that they continue working on. So I guess throughout the year, we have sort of 5 main initiatives. The first one is our conference, which we call the Tech Under 20 Expo. So really educating the students about opportunities and getting them interested in the year's events. Then we have our case competition around in November. That follows up with the Tech Under 20 Cup, which happens in March. Then we have Learn to Get Hired in the end of May. And finally, we end off with the Tech Under 20 Fellowships, where students can pitch some ideas that they have to get funding to make the community a better place. So it's a full year schedule, but we've been focused on growing and adding a number of great partners. RBC is now a partner, Geotab is a partner, Sheridan College. So a number of different organizations have really helped Tech Under 20 and Silicon Halton grow.
That's, yeah. One cool thing for our viewers out there is I actually got my first internship at the Learn to Get Hired event at Tech Under 20. I don't know if you remember, but that's where I think you interviewed me one as well. At there. So yeah, so that was that's good to relate to that. Yeah, it's definitely a very good program. Like I'd recommend everyone to that in the Halton region to like join it. It's very fulfilling, and it's definitely, it's wonderful what you guys are doing over there. It's very beneficial for the community for sure. So yeah, now like if like switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask about like how did you do these like interviews? Like obviously Cloud Engineer at RBC is a pretty like technical role. So like how did you go about passing these interviews? Because that's one of like the hurdles people usually have in getting the final job.
For sure. So I think the interviews that I've done were more system design focused, and I think that's more of my strength of explaining a problem, sort of the tools I use to go about and solving it. I've been asked fewer sort of algorithmic, sort of lead code style questions. I know those take a little bit more work to prepare for, but I think one of my biggest strengths is being able to explain a problem and all the different solutions. And I guess with the different internship experiences I had, I could sort of weave a comprehensive solution together. So for my RBC interview, one of the key things that they asked me was to describe a solution that I worked on. And or problem and the solution. So this happened for a number of different interviews in the past, but for this one, they asked me to draw out the project that I did for the past, with my past internship there at Amplify. So within there was sort of a whiteboarding session, drawing out the different parts of it, the front and back end, the data solution, the automation. Yeah, so with that, the reason that they sort of asked more about the architecture of the program was that the team that was hiring was the architecture team. So for that, it was important that I can think comprehensively through that. And as a cloud engineer within the architecture group, it's really been a focus to help develop those end-to-end solutions. So helping internal customers sort of analyze their problems, suggest some technologies, building some proof of concepts, helping implement some of those features to really help solve that issue. So I guess because of the role that they were looking at, my skills matched quite well, which was probably a large reason why I got that role.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely good to apply to jobs that the roles your skill sets match. It's more likely to get your job offer. So in terms of like learning about like cloud architecture, like you mentioned like Azure and stuff, like was there like a few websites that you went to, or like how did you go about learning this? Because it's like a pretty big topic and stuff. There's so much information, it kind of seems overwhelming to some people to dive into that.
Yeah, for sure. So when I actually joined, I thought I was going to be working on AWS and not Azure. So I knew some AWS things, but Azure was brand new. So that was a lot of learning on the job, which is okay. But I think it's going to happen to everybody, where you have to learn how the cloud works, and the different vendors have slightly different things. So a lot of it was just reading the documentation. So Microsoft and Amazon provide some pretty good documentation, as well as Google, for scenarios and different features that they provide. The conference videos are also really good. So the conference videos, these big tech companies host conferences a couple times a year. And from those conferences, there's some great videos that go anywhere from introductory concepts to advanced concepts, where half the time it seems that the presenter just found out about these new features like 5 minutes ago. So a wide variety, and incorporating it into your routine and making it sort of a habit is really important, just because the space changes so quickly. So there's that. There's a lot of paid trainings as well, in-person trainings. An online training that I've used in the past was Linux Academy. That's pretty good. They had some fairly comprehensive courses. So it really depends, I think, on your learning style. If you enjoy watching videos and taking notes from that, that's great. There are lots of conferences, but I mean, the thing that works the best is just sitting down and tinkering with things and trying to test the limits of what things can and can't do.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, like that's a really good point, because yeah, I think right now there's a lot of challenge people have, especially when it comes to both applying for a job, getting into a job, as well as just learning coding in general. It's just getting over the vast amount of information that they're presented with upfront, and just learning that to try and adapt to a new topic. So yeah, like I think those are some really good points you touched on. Yeah, I guess just one last question before we delve into more fun and personal questions is, what's your favorite thing about currently working in RBC?
Mm-hmm. I think my team is really great. That was the main reason that I joined. So the team is very knowledgeable. They're very easygoing as well. They're very good technically. So there's been a lot of learning in different dimensions. They've been really great in helping me navigate the bank. So RBC, I think they're at 85,000 employees at this point. So a lot of people working there, and it can be a big place to try to navigate. So a lot of great help from the team, and outside the team, I found some great mentors within different departments. So those have been great into helping me in terms of career advice, or just providing a great learning opportunity. So I think a lot of good things there, and that's really helped me sort of better understand where my skills and weaknesses lie, just because you get exposed to so many things, and there are a lot of places where you can raise your hand and get engaged in sort of more extracurricular things. So as part of RBC, I've gone to a couple of hackathons, being representative there. speaking at a couple events and such. So that's been something that I've been interested in, as well as working with some of the student program to mentor students and organize some events. So there's a lot of opportunities to work on different things. It's really trying to navigate your own schedule and the company as a whole. That's really the thing that limits you from doing almost anything there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess, Jawad, do you have any more final questions related to more about Denise and his background or work life or anything of the sort?
No, I'm good. I think we can move on to the last 10 minutes.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I guess Denise, so outside of work, just tell us a bit more about some fun things you like to do, what you do in your free time, what you do to lay off steam, and anything of the sort, yeah.
For sure. I guess things that I like doing, especially during the COVID times, is getting away from the computer. So playing basketball is always something that I enjoyed doing. Sports in general. Now it's a little harder to play team sports, obviously. So for exercise, I've been going on morning runs just to really de-stress. It really helps keep me focused, and it's a great way to feel tired in the evening as well, so you can get to bed at a regular time. But outside of that, I've been reading a couple of books lately that have been quite interesting. There's the Everything Store that I've read. There's the biography of Deng Xiaoping. There is also Black Swan events. So a lot of interesting things, good to great. So a lot of these books, just trying to find some quiet time away from the computer. Obviously, trying to talk with friends and family. It's a little bit different now since everything's digital, but that's always a great way to catch up with people and seeing the interesting things that they're doing. A lot of my friends in university are in non-comp sci fields, so learning more about some things in biology, psychology, physics, math is always interesting. And of course, talking with some tech friends about the latest trends and technologies is always fun. So variety of different things. Been cooking more, just that we're always at home now. But other than that, I think that that's the usual, but it'll be more exciting once things open up and we can enjoy getting together and meeting friends and family that way.
Yeah, for sure. It's this quarantine time has lived this time. It's definitely getting a little irritating staying at home 24/7, especially you're working from home, you're playing video games from home. Everything is just it's in your room cooped up for like the longest time ever. It's pretty different for sure, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, so we'll get into some more fun questions. So I guess let's start with the wacky one. So if you had to go 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future, which one would you choose and why?
That's a good question. I think the thing holding me back from going into the future is just the whole climate change situation. Like, we don't even know if our planet will still be around in 100 years. That's a little bit frightening, just like ending up in some like apocalyptic wasteland. 100 years in the past is, you forget how much change has happened. Like 100 years ago, we didn't have vaccines for a lot of diseases. We didn't have antibiotics. Like, those are all developments in like the last 50 to 80 years. So if you get sick, like you're done. I think it would have been cool though to live in a world where you could think of new ideas, and it wasn't that everything was invented yet. Even reading some of the historical tech books, it just seems like a lot of problems that seems kind of obvious, I guess, in this context, weren't solved. Like 100 years ago, if you could build a cool car, like you were like king of the world. So a lot of really interesting things back then, but I don't know. Probably I would say the future. If the world doesn't exist, then so be it. But it'll be fun to get transported there to see what humanity has done since.
Yeah, I think a lot, like the common denominator of going to the future is just the advancement in technology. But yeah, you bring up a good point, in the sense that, will the world be the same in 100 years from a climate change perspective? Yeah, I think that's like a big if factor for everyone. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the world is still in decent or tip-top shape by that time, compared to today. But yeah, we'll hope for the best. Yeah, I guess another wacky question, I think we'll just do one or two more, is what's your favorite guild food that you like to indulge in?
Good foods. I guess ice cream's pretty good. Like usually indulge like sometimes when I go out with friends to get like pancakes and ice cream on top, but that's usually a good thing, or waffles and ice cream or shakes sometimes. So always good to get some good mix-ins in there, like an Oreo milkshake's always good. Yeah, I think that's pretty usual. I'm a big ice cream fan, so um, like usually I'm not too into ice cream, but then like it comes around every couple of months where I'm just like, okay, I just want a lot of ice cream right now. So
Yeah, for sure. I would take the whole container of ice cream, sit on the couch, watch a couple of Netflix shows, and just eat the whole thing. The next morning, my mom would be like, "Where did the ice cream go?" And I'm like, "It's in my belly." Yeah, it's same here. I would agree. That's my food as well, for sure.
Yeah, Joel, do you want to top it off with the one last question before we let Denise go?
Yeah, for sure. This is not too much of a wanky question or stuff, but just if you had to pick one technology that like you would you spend the rest of your time using, what would it be, regardless of what technology it is?
I think that's a hard question just because how quickly tech is moving. Like the cloud didn't exist 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, like my job didn't exist, which is a little crazy. I mean, I think that mobile technology is good. Like I'm still not the biggest fan of voice technology. I don't think it's as fast or convenient. And even with phones, right? I feel much more productive on a computer just with a keyboard and sort of more space on the screen. So I think that's a tough problem. Probably, actually, I'll change my answer. I'll probably go if I have a laptop, just a good laptop to use for the next little while. A lot you can get done there, and yeah, it's sort of a gateway to the internet. So a lot of good things can happen with the laptop.
For sure. Laptop is his life when you're in the tech industry.
Yeah, it's like the weapon of choice for a programmer.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, other than that, I mean, thank you for coming on the show, spending your time from your busy day. It was really nice talking to you about your experiences. It opened my eyes, especially about like cloud architecture, and like you mentioned about watching conferences more. I've never actually watched a lot of conferences, but I'm gonna start watching. It seems like they are helpful for sure. So yeah, that's one insight that was very helpful for me from this talk today.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Sorry, yeah. I just want to add, like for me as well. I got a lot of valuable insight. Just about like different places to learn things, just to be expanding my network always, because you never know when a connection might come in handy or when you might need your community to fall back on. So yeah, I think Denise made like a lot of really awesome points. And yeah, thank you again from my side as well, Denise, just for joining us today. Yeah, but I think that concludes our Tech Talk for today. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to see you on the next Tech Talk. Take care. Bye.
See you later. Bye.